No? Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and good morning to you wherever you may be. My name is Duncan Harris and I'm the President of the Australia-Africa Chamber of Commerce. I'm delighted today's webinar is in conjunction with the Embassy for Ethiopia in Canberra, and would like to in fact welcome you all. But before we get underway, two housekeeping matters we have to draw to your attention. We are, as advised, recording this session. It'll be available to our members and others as a follow-up on the AACC website and other channels. We'll also be having a question and answer session, which is your opportunity to ask questions of our presenters. If you've not already done so, you can do so in the course of this session and submit them through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Our topic today is My topic today is policy briefing, new investment regulation and updated areas for foreign investment. I have to say, before we get underway though, I would like to pay particular tribute to our own operations manager, Ivy Wang, who spent 5 years in Ethiopia and has a first love of the country, and as such has been absolutely instrumental in facilitating this webinar today. So thank you, Ivy. To that end, however, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, if I may, Mr. Berihun, who's the Minister Plenipotentiary and Acting Head of Mission for the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia to Australia and New Zealand, for some opening remarks. Thank you very much indeed. Are we there?
Hello, Ambassador Berihun, are you there? Hello, Hailu.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our apologies. I think Mr. Berihun is facing some technical difficulties. May I speak on his behalf, or shall we wait for him?
Duncan, can we proceed to the second speaker first?
We go to the second speaker then? Well, well, if the second speaker is available, is that Ambassador Duwani? Is he available to speak, please?
Can we go to Mr. Grant Morrison?
Sure. I'm very pleased to make some remarks and to be invited to take part in this really useful event this afternoon. So I'd like to say thanks to the AACC and Duncan. It's a great initiative, and also to Mr. Berihun and Mr. Hailu from the embassy here in Canberra. Thank you very much for organising this and giving us the opportunity to express the support that Australia has for investment and trade between our two countries. I really appreciate the efforts that you've done, particularly given that the challenges of COVID-19 are keeping us, or our contacts, a little bit distant at the moment. But anyway, let me go straight to the Australian White Paper, which came out in 2017, of foreign policy for Australia. Certainly we talk about our Indo-Pacific focus, but it really recognises also that Australia has a strong strategic and commercial interests in Africa, and that it's in our national interests to develop new and encompassing partnerships with African nations, and who better than Ethiopia. That's happening in many ways. There's more than 170 ASX listed companies operating in Africa, Australian companies, and Ethiopia's commercial importance to Australia is certainly growing in line with that general interest in, increasing interest in Africa from Australian business. Opportunities in Ethiopia, of course, have opened up, particularly under Prime Minister Abiy, and we're very much aware of these opportunities. Ethiopia's large domestic market's very attractive to Australia, the second most populous nation in Africa, and endowed with vast energy, mineral and agricultural resources. So the Australian and Ethiopian governments have had diplomatic relations for 55 years. We have a very strong relationship with the embassy here in Canberra. We're looking forward to welcoming a new Ethiopian ambassador to Australia soon. And we have an embassy in Addis Ababa, of course, and they are supported by Austrade offices in Nairobi and Pretoria. So we're very aware of Ethiopia's role as an influential regional actor, host to many UN organizations, as well as the African Union, and a transport hub for Africa. So an air services agreement between Australia and Ethiopia has recently been finalized. And that, of course, opens up the prospect of direct flights between Ethiopia and Australia sometime in the future, which would be a great opportunity to intensify our relationships. We're also aware of the African Continental Free Trade Area rather, and we took an opportunity to provide some training for Ethiopian and other African negotiators and coordinators for trade negotiations in Addis Ababa last year. And we're very much aware of the opportunities that this new trade area, once it's really fully in force and operating, will present for Australia as well. Just to quickly run through our major mining interests in Ethiopia are mining and energy companies. There are deals afoot worth potentially tens of billions of dollars. Just to mention Australian mining company, Africa Mining and Energy, Australian linked company, Kefi Minerals, which is a UK company but relies strongly on Australian subcontractors and Australian expertise. They're working in the gold sector. We have opportunities in the hydro sphere, in grain, in livestock, water management, solar power and logistics. Lots of opportunities, lots of discussions happening between Australian and Ethiopian business interests and government. We're very encouraged by all of that and want to see more of it. At the Australia Africa Week in Perth, from the 4th to the 6th of November, there'll be further opportunities to discuss our growing relationship. I understand that an Ethiopian minister has agreed graciously to make a presentation, a video presentation at that event. I think it's the Minister for Mines and Petroleum, Mr. Takele Uma, and we're looking forward to hearing from that minister and to hear more about their take on our growing relationships. Finally, I'd like to note that our Foreign Minister, Ms. Payne, has committed to Australia to using its full suite of diplomatic resources to continue to advocate for an open global economy, supporting Australian businesses seeking commercial opportunities and strengthening our international competitiveness. So we welcome events like this, and we welcome reforms, both political and economic, in Ethiopia, which provide more opportunities for us to work together. I look forward to a very interesting meeting, and thanks again for inviting us. Thank you, Duncan.
Well, thank you, Grant, and thank you for stepping in at that time. As you know, we sometimes have sequencing issues that arise in our various presentations, but I'm delighted now that we're able to turn to Mr. Berihun, who is available to us now. He's the Minister Plenipotentiary and Acting Head of Mission for the Embassy in Canberra, and we look very much forward to his opening remarks as well. Thank you very much indeed. You're on mute, Berihun. You're on mute. Okay.
Thank you, Excellency. First of all, I would like to apologize for technical difficulties for not joining on time. I had some problem with my laptop, and it's due to that I was not able to join at the beginning. Your Excellency, Ambassador Doano Kader, Permanent Secretary for the Economic Diplomacy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Mr. Grant Morrison, Acting Assistant Secretary for Africa, Branch Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, of the Commonwealth of Australia, Mr. Aulacho Tadessa, Foreign Direct Investment Promotions Division Director at Ethiopian Investment Commission, Mr. Duncan Harris, President of Australia Africa Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Michael Gumble, Chief Executive Officer of Megado Gold Limited. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great honor to welcome you all to this very timely webinar organized by the Ethiopian Embassy in collaboration with Australia Africa Chamber of Commerce. Let me also take this opportunity to thank Australia Africa Chamber of Commerce most sincerely for the outstanding role they played to promote trade and investment potential of Africa in general and Ethiopia in particular to the Australian business people. The successive Africa Calling webinars that the Chamber hosted over the last few months have been instrumental in terms of raising awareness of Australian companies about the business opportunities in Africa. Today's webinar will also be the first of 2 consecutive Ethiopia-themed webinars we are going to co-host a couple of weeks. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, as you all are aware, Ethiopia is at the midst of profound economic and political reform. We believe this reform process will open up business opportunities for Australian companies. We hope this webinar will provide you a vital information to learn about business opportunities that exist in Ethiopia currently and strategic areas of interest of the government and future plans straight from officials implementing and leading the reform process. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I also wish to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Grant Morrison, Acting Assistant Secretary for Africa Branch at the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade in this webinar. It shows us the commitment from the Australian side to enhance the bilateral investment and trade relations between our 2 countries. Ethiopia is keen to enhance the bilateral relation with Australia across various fields. We appreciate Australia's commitment to share expertise and knowledge with Ethiopia in areas of agriculture and mining. We also acknowledge the positive role Australian NGOs are playing by implementing community projects focused on food security, disability, child protection, education, health, and the related. We believe trade, not aid, will be the key to true economic development and self-reliance in Ethiopia. In this regard, we welcome more capacity building programs that can enhance our productive capacities in priority areas identified by our government. I would also like to call upon the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade to encourage Australian companies to explore business opportunities in Ethiopia. Finally, on behalf of the embassy, I apologize for not featuring a representative from Ministry of Finance. It's due to an urgent commitment the official face. But we are quite sure that Ethiopian Investment Commission officials will touch upon the wider economic reform program during these presentations. The Chief Executive Officer of Megado Gold Limited, Mr. Michael, will also share his live experiences. May I use this opportunity to congratulate Megado leadership upon the company's listing on AACC recently. congratulations for the hard work to Mr. Michael and his team. Finally, I cordially invite His Excellency Ambassador Doano Kadir, Permanent Secretary for Economic Diplomacy at Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, to give his remarks. He has another meeting shortly. Myself and Mr. Kafaleng, Director for Foreign Direct Investment Promotion and Technology Transfer from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, will take the questions and queries on his behalf. I thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Barron. That's much appreciated. And as you rightly said, we should turn now to Mr. Oslo, who's currently working as the FDI Promotion Director. There's lots of diverse experience, and we very much look forward to hearing from him. So thank you very much indeed. Is Mr. Oslo going to be speaking to us? Next on the, here we go. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Oslo. If you could just demute.
Hello?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hearing me now? Are you hearing me?
We can.
Okay. Excellencies and distinguished participants, both countries, Australian and Ethiopians. First of all, I would like to say thank you for the organizer to create such opportunities to introduce Ethiopian investment opportunities and potentials to Australian companies. So I have a PowerPoint presentation. Can I share to my PowerPoint presentation, or how can to start?
Yes, please share.
Okay, wait me to.
Mr. Astralo, I can share on your behalf.
Okay. How do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, can I start? Okay, thank you very much again, Excellencies and distinguished participants on both sides. Really, I would like to appreciate again for the organizers to give us such opportunities to introduce Australian companies, the Ethiopian investment opportunities and incentives. I have 4 short contents my presentation will address to you. The first one is the Ethiopian investment policies and economy in highlights. I will highlight about that one. And the next topic will be the investment laws and key reform areas. We have revised the existing investment proclamation and the regulations. So I would like to highlight to you the changes and the reforms and the investment opportunities and priority areas. We have investment opportunities, and also as a country, we have priority sectors. I would like to introduce you to about those priority areas and industrial park development and its key features. We have developing industrial parks. And also the last one, I would like to introduce you to about investment incentives package. Just as briefly, for those participants, the official name of Ethiopia is the Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a strategically located country found in Horn of Africa at the crossroad between Africa and the Middle East and Asia. So the population, the area is 1.1 million square kilometers, and also we have now 10 semi-autonomous regions and also 2 charter cities. Our system is a parliamentary system, and the federal government structure is like this one. The head of state is Her Excellency President Sahle-Work Zewde, and also head of government is His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed. So our economies is GDP 2020 $1.7 billion US, and also by 2020 the growth rate is 6.5. So the population is around 1.5 million people, the second populous country in Africa. So the population growth is increasing annually, which means 2.5 million per year. So our Prime Minister, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, has announced partial privatization of state-owned enterprise on such state-owned companies, especially those telecom sectors, logistics, and aviation sectors were fully owned by the government. Now, the government of Ethiopia is announced that to privatize those sectors. So we have such open scenarios for those who engaged and to invest here in Ethiopia. So we have a little bit opening of the Ethiopian economy. And also Ethiopia undergoing continued political, economical, and structural reforms, expanding investment opportunities for foreign direct investments. As an Ethiopian, we are looking for foreign investors mainly for three main reasons. Due to that, the first one is just to create job opportunities. As you know, Ethiopia is the second populous country, and 66% of the Ethiopian population, around 70% of the population is young. So unless we promote foreign direct investment or big companies to come and to invest in Ethiopia, job creation is very difficult. So the first reason to attract foreign direct investment is to create job for locals. And the second reason why we attract foreign direct investment for this country is for technology transfers. So as you know, technology is a very vital issue nowadays, and we assume foreign companies, when they come to Ethiopia, they transfer some technologies and management systems for those Ethiopians and also for those Ethiopian entrepreneurs. The last one is to increase productivity and foreign currency. So due to for these three perspectives, we are reforms under structural reforms nowadays. So the first one is political reform, as you know all. Democracy and the rule of law is very important for investment. And the other one is building peace in the region is a very key issue. So the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, especially the new government, trying to reform on those two basic areas. The other one is economic reform. Economic reform, as I said, liberalization, state-owned companies to liberalize for those private companies. As I said, those Ethio telecoms, industrial parks, and shipping and logistic companies already privatized. Those who want to invest on those sectors, it is already opened, and also sugar industries. We have around 10 big sugar industry companies. So the government now ready to privatize those sugar industries to private sectors, and also opening of new sectors for FDI. Already, as I said, logistics sectors and other sectors is state-owned companies, especially so those logistics is very important for investment. So before it was fully for local companies. Now it is with minority share, which means 49% with 51 is allowed for foreigners. So some companies, DHL and Ethiopian Airlines already, and one German company is already starting to make their business here in Ethiopia. And also now we are simplified business processes. So making business is a little bit, as you know, a little bit difficult. Now the government of Ethiopia and Ethiopian Investment Commission simplified business processes, getting investment license and certification, and the whole activities we are trying to simplify it. And acquiring also acquisition of share is considered as a type of investment for foreigners. And also intellectual property rights is already included. And those are, there are also abolish multiple $200 US capital registration requirements for single foreign companies, interest to diversify. And those are some of the basic reforms now trying to consider. And also investment regarding specifically investment doing business, especially for ease of doing business, is already launched by Excellency Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Mohammed and led by the Prime Minister Office. The Ethiopian Investment Commission is facilitating for those ease of doing business, investors to easily to make their business. So we are trying to increase our business ranks more than less than numbers. And also this is one of doing business, and ease of doing business is one of the key reform areas. And also investment and job strategic committee. There we have such committees solving problems, those who invest in Ethiopia and also those who want to invest in Ethiopia. So there are some committees, which means collaboration, lead with collaboration with Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other relevant departments and government institutions. And also investment legal reforms already, as I said before. And also there is Ethiopia already a signatory of Africa Free Trade Agreement. This is also one of the other opportunities and reforms. And there are, before our investment, the existing investment regulation was the so-called, we are using the positive list, which means all the allowed sectors were listed in the regulation. Now we move from positives to negative list, which means there are areas reserved for joint investment with government, as you can see here. Around only 5 sectors allowed with working only with government, manufacturing of weapons, and import and export electrical energy, international transport service, bus rapid transport, and postal service, excluding courier service. Those are only working with government. And also there are sectors with joining investment, with joint investment with domestic investors. So around 8 sectors, as you can see here. Freight forwarding and shipping agency service is working with a joint venture investment, and domestic air transport service, cross-country public transport service, urban mass transport service, advertisement and promotion service, audiovisual service, and so accounting and auditing service. Those service is also those services or those sectors areas are joint investment with domestic investors. So except those mentioned areas, the other areas were open for investors. So they are also reserved, some around 32 areas are reserved for domestic investor by their nature. Those small scale industries and also banking and insurance sectors are exclusively reserved for local investors. So those are our revised investment regulations, and so you can see from the PowerPoint, and I can share to you even the the detail for the regulation of the revised investment regulation. And also, infrastructure is very important, as you know. Without infrastructure, without enough power, energy is difficult to invest. And also on these areas, the government of Ethiopia building mega infrastructure projects to boost the investments. So as you know, all the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is the biggest dam in Africa. So now it is 70%. So we will have huge potential for energy sectors for these sectors. And also we have another mega projects to produce energy. So for those investors who want to invest in Ethiopia, energy is a very key issue. So the government of Ethiopia trying to solve the infrastructure relating to energy areas. So the other one is a very important issue is transportation issue. Transport and logistics is very important. So before we have Ethiopia, as you know, it's landlocked country. We don't have port. So we are now currently using port of Djibouti. So now from port of Djibouti to Addis, we have new electric railway connecting from industrial parks to Djibouti. So before it took around 5 up to 6 days. Now it reduced this one for up to 12 hours travel time. So this reduced cost issues. So already from Port Djibouti to Addis and those connect to industrial parks are already connected. This is a very important issue. This railway is not stop here in Addis and to connect to the main corridors or industrial parks to and also to regional governments. So it's under construction, as you know. And the other one is the African Aviation Hub, Ethiopian Airlines, one of the best airlines in Africa. So it expands its destination, especially in passenger as well as cargo destinations. Those are also very important for investors. And the other one is the industrial park development. Industrial park development is a very good strategy for Ethiopians because it reduces time, and also the government trying to fulfill all the necessary utilities in the industrial parks. So for those who want to invest in the industrial parks, the only thing what they do, they import machines and machineries and to plant their machine in the shed, and they will start their investment within short period of time. So those are the basic infrastructures the government trying to solve for investors. So this is what I have to say about the infrastructure issues. So the other one is we have strategic or strategy sectors and also targeted investment priority sectors. As you can see from here, we have selected priority areas based on the potential and based on the comparative advantage of the investor as well as the country. So as I said, the other side, as I said, those in the light manufacturing and export-oriented sectors are priority sectors, especially textile and apparel, leather and leather products, and agro-processing. By their nature, those sectors are light manufacturing sector and export-oriented sectors. We are highly appreciated and encourage investors to invest on those light manufacturing sectors because they employ more people and also to increase our foreign currency. So we are trying to looking for foreign investor on those light manufacturing sectors. And the other one is pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals is very crucial and very important for Ethiopians because 85% of basic human drugs imported from outside, from overseas. So the Ethiopian government spends more than 200 million US dollar per year to purchase for medical, for basic medical drugs. So due to this reason, we are constructing pharmaceutical industrial parks here in around in Addis Ababa, the so-called Clinton. So, and also we have strategy, special strategy for those invest in the pharmaceutical sectors. So we are trying to promote and attract investors those who invest in the pharmaceutical sectors, especially here in Industrial Park in Kilinto, we appreciate highly, and the incentive is very encouraged, including the raw materials, and the income tax exemption is very different from other sectors. So the other one is tourism. Tourism Ethiopia, we have an untapped tourism potentials. In fact, we have a problem of infrastructure. We have good and huge tourist potential areas. Now the government of Ethiopia also highly promoting those who invest the tourist destination areas, especially lodge and restaurants. We highly appreciate, and also give incentive for those who invest in the tourist destination areas, especially for lodges and hotels. Even the income tax exemption period will have around 5 up to 6 years. So we are encouraging investors investing in the tourism areas. And the other one is ICT, information communication technology. Nowadays, information communication technology is a very vital issue. Without technology, it is nothing can do. So due to this reason, we have ICT parks here in around industrial parks. Those who want to invest in the ICT, information communication technology areas, is very encouraged, and also we have incentive for this one. And the other one is mining and energy. This is also priority sectors. As I said, energy is very important. Producing energy by using any means is allowed and promoted by using. We have also potential for these areas, especially in geothermal, wind, solar energy, waste products. So any investors want to produce energy or energy by using any means is allowed and also promoted. So for this one, there is a ministry called Water, Energy and Electric Cities. Under this ministry, there are institutions: Ethiopian Electric Power, Ethiopian Electric Utility, and Ethiopian Electric Authority. So those who invest on the energy sectors, we highly appreciate, and also mining is also one of the priority sectors. Those are the priority sectors we highly emphasized and highly encouraged investors to come and to invest in locally in Ethiopia. And also now we are creating new open priority areas: transport and freight cold chain, railways and cables, and also health sectors, management, consulting, advertisements and promotion service, electronic commerce, wholesales. Those are now the newly open sectors. So the next slide is the details about what I've mentioned before. So you can read it about the textile industrial and the leather and leather products. So we have potential for this one, especially leather and leather products. Ethiopia is one of #1 livestock potentials. So in Africa and 10th in the world. So we have huge resource on those areas. So for those who want to produce leather and leather products to Australian markets and other European markets, I think it's a very good opportunities. Pharmaceuticals already I mentioned. And also power. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Already, those are the next slides are the details. The details of what I mentioned before. So you can read it. So the next topic is about industrial park development. So our industrial park developments are key principles of principles. So those principles are they are sector specializations. We have around now 13 industrial parks, government industrial parks, and also we have around 8 private industrial parks. Especially those private industrial parks are unfortunately those Chinese industrial parks. And also those industrial parks are export-oriented sectors. Now I'm going to talking about public industrial parks, but what I'm talking about the private industrial parks. The private industrial parks are they have their own specifications. So even developing industrial park is considering as an investment. So those who want to invest in the development of industrial parks are considering as an investment. For example, some Australian companies to come and to invest, developing their own Australian industrial parks, highly encouraged. So on this area, the regional government is very happy to give land as a lease base, and also the income tax exemption for those industrial park developers, 15 years, 15 years. So even the lease price will be negotiable. So we are looking for about not the land value of that investor. We are looking for about how many workers that industrial park will employ and what kinds of product will produce on that industrial park. So development of industrial parks, please, it is considering as an investment. So those industrial parks are vertically integrated, and sustainability issue is very important. And it's also skill development so already considered. And those industrial parks also their own features located in strategic economic corridors connected to ports of electric drive and railway, as I said earlier, and also close proximity to an abundant labor force. And also we have labor force, in fact, and also, as I said before, it's a huge labor force and very competitive, the labor wage also. And also those industrial parks, they have dedicated power with substation with waste treatment also, and health station, fire brigade, experts, accommodation, and 24-hour security service is there. And also all those industrial parks, we have one-stop shop service, every service without coming the head office and another institutions providing in industrial parks. So this is the industrial park features and principles. And as I said, for those investors in Ethiopia, there are also tailored incentives package. Basically, the incentives are divided into three parts. As you can see from the physical incentives, like income tax exemption period. The income tax exemption period, corporate income tax in Ethiopia is 30% for the net profit. So as I mentioned, for those who invest in the priority areas, as I said, textile and garment, leather and leather products, pharmaceuticals and energy sectors, for those who invest on those priority sectors, the income tax exemption period is 8 years, not the same for all, 8 years, 6 years, and those who invest in the pharmaceutical sectors up to 12 years. So we have such kinds of schemes, income tax exemption schemes, and also custom tax exemptions for those investors. All necessary capital goods, machineries, spare parts, there is zero tax exemption. They can import, and also in case, as you know, sometimes you may face lose. So if has lose, there is also lose carry forward for those investors in case they face lose. And also there is a full export duty exemption. Those are fiscal incentives. The other one is also non-fiscal, which means guarantee against exploitation, which means investors, there is full guarantee in the investment regulations and also even the constitutions. They can take their dividend share without any limitation. It is through our national bank. So foreign companies already investing here in Ethiopia, every single dollar comes through National Bank of Ethiopia. So at the end, or when they take their money without any limitation they can take to their own countries, and the custom facilitation through bonded export factories and similar other schemes. And also, as I said, we have providing one-stop shop service in head office at AACC and at industrial parks, and also expanded procedures for securing visa. So here we are facilitating visa issue here in Ethiopian Investment Commission. So for those who want to invest here in Ethiopia, we are facilitating there in Australia, connecting or communicating with us. So those are some of the incentives. We have the detail of this one. So the Ethiopian Investment Commission is the lead government agency responsible for promotion, one-stop shop service, providing incentives and aftercare service. So as you can see here, we are the promotion agencies engaging in targeting investment promotion, including promotion investment opportunities and conditions. And also, as I said, we are providing one-stop shop service and also providing incentives. We give incentives here for those foreign companies, and also for existing companies. Also we have supporting, facilitating acquisition of land, utilities, and water, electricity, and any related issues. Finally, the investment law in general, the investment law reforms aim to achieve 5 key objectives. The first one is modernize the investment regulatory and administrative framework. This is one of the first objective or key objectives. The second objective is align the investment legal regime with the recent changes in economic policy and priorities. The third one is to revisit investment areas open to the private sectors, as I mentioned. So we are now a little bit open for foreign investors. And the fourth one is adopt best practice for efficient investment administration and service provision, including one-stop shop services. And the last one is devise a faster and more transparent investors investment grievances handling mechanism. So we now we are revised the investment laws due to those 5 key pointers. Those are some of companies, largest recipient companies already investing in Ethiopia. So as you can see here, thank you very much. This is what all I have. If you have any question, I think you will have questions. I will address your questions. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Ochler. I've got to say that was the most comprehensive and thorough presentation, one of the best we've had in our series that we've been running in our Africa Calling series. I might say before we move to our next speaker, we ourselves at the AACC have been developing through our business intelligence platform country guides, one of which very shortly will be Ethiopia. As you would know, at the embassy there, we've been liaising with you about the information we're looking to provide to this, and I'm very sure it will directly complement your presentation, which in turn we'll be putting up on our website shortly. So we thank you very much indeed for such a thorough, very professional presentation. Now, if I may, I'd like to turn to Michael Gumbley. Michael's the CEO of Magado Gold. You've had a very exciting week, Michael, and they've got a very exciting series of projects. There are a portfolio of high quality gold exploration projects sitting there on the Arabian Nubian Shield, which is absolutely famed for gold. So over to you, Michael.
Thank you very much. I'm a Singanale in my best Amharic. Hi everybody. Yeah. I certainly really appreciate you inviting me to this forum and to really just, when I was asked to speak, I honestly didn't know what I was going to talk about. And what I decided and what I thought might be most useful for some of the people on the call is really just to give you a little bit of just to share the story of what we've been doing over the last 18 months. So if you could go to the next slide. Some of you who have been to Australia will note that this is beautiful Manly Beach. And on 20th of January 2019, I was on Manly Beach with one of my oldest mates. So actually, I should say that I'm Australian, but I live in Brooklyn, New York. So it's a little bit late here. And so I was visiting home. I'm on Manly Beach, 20th of January 2019. Magado did not exist as a company. And we were talking, and he's a guy who has been involved with various mining projects around the world. And if you go to the next slide, he asked me this one question. Do you know anything about Ethiopia? And as a matter of fact, you know, I do. So next slide, please. For most of my career, so I'm from Australia. I studied in America and in France. And most of the time I've been working in Africa and Asia, but on the nonprofit side. And we'd been doing, I'd done projects all over the world, food security, water, and a lot of the last 10 years was actually water projects like the one you see in this photo, with a strong focus in Ethiopia. And we were doing projects, you know, we deployed some $60 million US in Ethiopia. A project like this would run about $200,000 down to some, you know, very small projects of like $4,000 or $5,000. But during that time, and having worked in many countries, as I said, across Africa, I learned quite a lot about Ethiopia, and really it was one of our principal focuses in terms of the work we were doing. And I love the place. So what I was able to tell him, if you go to the next slide, is really that Ethiopia at the time, and if you think about a year ago, and even today, as many of the speakers have alluded to, it's a country that is at a really exciting inflection point, in that it's the fastest growing in Africa, with more than 8% growth per year. Here are a couple of the companies that I cited here: Coca-Cola, Hyundai, Heineken. You saw some of those on the slides of the previous speaker. Its stability as both from an economic and political standpoint has really made it kind of an exciting hub for many big multinational companies to set up their northeastern, in the Horn of Africa operations. And I was also telling him about the Grand Renaissance Dam, the train, the Ethiopian Airlines being the biggest airline in Africa. And the reason he brought this up, and then later in the year, Prime Minister Abiy was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and there was also the opening up, the privatization of things like finance and telecoms. And so during this conversation, his eyes started to light up, because what had happened was he was approached with a potential mining opportunity for gold in Ethiopia, and he didn't really know anything about the country. And I think that with forums like this, and with the success, hopefully, of companies like ours, and some of the, obviously, these much bigger companies than ours, there really is a stark opportunity for this type of investment, and for many different companies and types of companies to kind of bring knowledge and bring their investment into Ethiopia. So if you go to the next slide. So a year later, or just over a year later, this photo is of beautiful Magado, which is in Oromia in the southern part of Oromia, and it's a place that has a lot of artisanal mining and is highly prospective for gold, but has never really had the type of modern exploration applied to it that many other jurisdictions, particularly in Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, have seen. And I fast forward here because, as the ambassador said, you know, you saw, I told you a little bit about what I'd done in the past. What kind of, I always found a little bit unsatisfying, if you will, is that even though we were doing fantastic work, their trade, not aid, I think is truly the way that we can help, we can truly bring long-lasting assistance to some of these communities. And Magado and some of the towns around there, they're wonderful people, like really, just really lovely people, very supportive of our work. But we're going to be bringing jobs with the type of impact investment that we will be doing. The job for some of these people, it's the first job they'll ever have. And simultaneously, in parallel, we're able to actually continue to invest in those communities with such things like water projects and some of the agroforestry projects. And so I think it's both, the trade not aid really resonated with me, both from a personal perspective, but also from what we're trying to accomplish as a company. So the other thing that, and this past year has been quite a learning process for me because, you know, obviously this is not an industry I was working in previously. A couple of things I learned in terms of people is firstly, there is a guy, an Australian guy, Dr. Chris Bowden, who lived for 5 years in Ethiopia and found a 1.5 million ounce gold deposit for a private Egyptian company. So it's the same guy who I was chatting with on Manly Beach, found him. I don't know. I'm going to just go out on a limb here and say he's the only Australian who has ever found a 1.5 million ounce gold deposit in Ethiopia. I'm yet to be corrected. And I think what I wanted to highlight here is that when he became aware of our project and what we were hoping to accomplish, he rushed back, and he rushed back for several reasons. One is that he sees the opportunity in this country, and as I do, we love the country, and we know that in going there, that it's blessed with a lot of opportunity, and that there's a type of support required in order for us to be successful if there really is the goal there that most people believe there is. So I think it's a really kind of singing endorsement, because this guy's worked all over the world, that he wanted to come back and work with us. And the other thing, the person I wanted to highlight here is Mesfin, who is a senior geologist. He worked with Chris at Dish Mountain in Western Ethiopia. And why I highlight him is because he is brilliant. He is a person who's highly educated. He is a person who is, if you read his thesis on Saqqara, which is one of the gold mines, one of the only gold mines currently in Ethiopia, you know, it stands up to any thesis from any university across the world. And I think sometimes that gets lost in some of these discussions is that there are people, there are many people who are extremely well educated and able to jump in and assist these projects on day one. And even in my old job, working in charity organizations, I was frequently the least educated person in the room. And and I've got a couple of degrees under my name. And I think that that's something I just wanted to highlight with Mesfin, is that he's rushed back to join Chris, and he is an expert. And so that's really helped us be able to mobilize quite quickly to get us to the point where we are today through his research, through his knowledge of the area, and through his dedication. Next slide. And so the other thing I learned is that, as Grant said earlier, Kefi is there, and AMEP, and there's us. There are a couple of other there are a couple of other companies. There's a couple of Canadian companies and a Norwegian company, and what we've found is that there is a Ministry of Mines and Petroleum very receptive to our type of work, and they're a diligent bunch. Sise and Balai in particular were really helpful in helping us through the process and very supportive. And you can see here that just on this slide that it's a dual language mining proclamation, and it's been set up very much so to entice companies such as ours to bring their investment into this industry, such that it's very much in line with modern mining proclamations across the world. And one thing that Chris says, and I think is also important to underline, is that at Dish, they spent $20 million US and never once felt that there was a threat of that investment being at risk. And I think that's really a significant point, because that is not always the case in areas where this type of work is entered. And so I think it's very much a ministry which is supportive of the work that we're trying to do. Next slide, please. And so here we are today. So from Manly Beach to today, where we've put together a portfolio of projects in the Arabian-Nubian Shield. There's more than 500 square kilometers, which we control, and then we have another 200 odd, which is in application. And with this suite of projects, we are applying the same techniques Chris used to find Dish Mountain, but really it's something in this land. It's often the first time that there has been this more modern approach to the exploration. We started with satellite technology. We've done some of the ground truthing and geophysical work, and some of it's also just getting boots on the ground and having the capital behind us to be able to execute the work. And as I said, it's incredibly important that we've been able to, that we have a team of very knowledgeable geologists, all of them local. We have one Australian working there, but the rest are all local, who are able to really execute the plan as is without needing to import expertise, which I think is really extremely important. And then we go to yesterday. If we go to the last slide. And this is us. So as noted, it was a really, really exciting week. As of yesterday, we are a listed company on the Australian Stock Exchange. I'm just gonna state it because I'm yet to be defied, that we are the first company to list on the Australian Stock Exchange with Ethiopian assets only. And if you look at this timeline, we're going back just over 18 months, of being a breakfast chat on the beach at Manly to a listed company with some 700 square kilometers of premium land, of being operational on the ground in Ethiopia, and where we're doing our first drilling program over the next couple of weeks. And I thought that might be an interesting illustration of our experience, kind of to highlight how the possibility of being able to go from an idea to a listed company in the space of about 18 months. And I think that it's a testament to many of the administrative officers, Ministry of Mines, Ministry of Trade in particular, which helped facilitate this. A lot to do with us being able to have a team on the ground. And I think it's a lot to do. We've also had support from the Australian Embassy in Addis and even the Ethiopian Embassy in Canberra. So I really thank you all again for taking the time to listen to our story today. And obviously, if there are any questions, I would be more than happy to field them. Thank you.
Well, Michael, thank you very much indeed for that presentation. You're one of the first CEOs who I've seen, and in fact listened to carefully, who's given such a major emphasis to social license to operate. But I'm very sure that you can move beyond that to some very solid reports. I notice your shares are up 26.5 rather today, so that should also put a smile on your face.
Yes,
We've only got limited time. I would like to now invite, if I may, our Head of Strategy for AACC to take some of the questions that have come through to us. We have got limited time. I'm very conscious of that. And when Boban Tomic, who's going to present for us or put these questions to us, concludes, I'm going to then invite the Ambassador Dewani to do the vote of thanks. Ambassador Dewani's become now available, and that would be really marvelous to hear from him. But perhaps, Boban, we could hear from you with some questions, please.
Okay, great. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Great. Thank you very much, Duncan. Well, I must say I'm also certainly, as Duncan mentioned earlier on, very impressed with the very detailed and substantial amount of information that was presented, a lot of very positive information in relation to the key reforms, the priority areas, the industrial parks, and the incentives. To be honest, there's so much great content there. It's a lot to absorb in this 1 hour, and we do have a lot of questions, and we'll get to that. And it's also great to hear, Michael, the positive feedback from your point of view, and we wish you great success going forward as well. So I'll start with, we've spoken a lot about the FDI, the investment area, but some of the questions coming through are related to trading. So maybe Mr. Shello, if you can just touch on what support and advice would you give to Australian businesses and Ethiopian businesses and entrepreneurs seeking to trade between the two countries?
Hello? Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, thank you.
So please, could you repeat me the question once again?
Yeah, so we've spoken a lot about the investment side, and there's a lot of good content that's been provided in terms of the industrial parks, priority areas, and the reforms. However, I have a few questions on the trading side in terms of what advice and support would you give to Ethiopian and Australian entrepreneurs seeking to trade goods between the two markets, and how we can accelerate that area of the bilateral space?
Yeah, already I have this presented about regarding the investment issue. So in our investment regulation and proclamation has clearly stated about investment. So regarding trade, and also the entrepreneurs from Australian side and Ethiopian sides, I think it's a very important issues. But the whole trades, or the wholesales, including retail trades, is exclusively reserved for locals. unless its products producing Ethereum locally, importing of finished product, to import from Australia and to sell here in locally is currently not open. But as a supplier, there are local companies here in Ethiopia, so they can join with Australian companies, so they can make supplier joint activities. So as a supplier, it's possible. You can find there are some Ethiopian companies in different areas, and also Ethiopian companies wanted to join in Australian market. So as a supplier, you can make it a joint business activities between Australian and Ethiopian, but directly importing finished products from Australia and to sell the Ethiopian market is currently not allowed.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. So I guess there is scope for JV type, joint venture type opportunities between the two markets in terms of maybe value added in some manufacturing operations. So there's some scope there. Thank you for that. I'll come to some specific questions. In terms of minimal capital contribution, is there a minimum to be considered within the foreign direct investment area? Is there a minimum capital contribution?
Of course, yes. The minimum capital requirement is still existed in the new revised regulation, and those who invest in the architectural or engineering work and related technical consultancy service, or including technical testing and analysis, publishing, for those who invest on these sectors, $150,000 if it is fully foreign company, and also if it is joint venture with local investors, $100,000, and investment areas other than those above sectors, $200,000 for fully foreign companies, and also those who want to invest as a joint venture, $150,000. So the minimum capital requirement is still existing.
Okay, all right, great. I think that's pretty clear. What sort of reforms can you comment on in relation to Ethiopia's customs office in the area of electronic document submission and electronic e-business to facilitate investments and the like?
Yeah, electronic e-business service is highly concerned at government level, yes, but as you know, the IT infrastructure still here in Ethiopia actually is not that much well developed in terms of the software and hardware infrastructures. But for relating to investment and custom issues, nowadays the custom is now providing these services by online issue. Okay. For example, clearing of goods and some of the services already starting by online. So the government trying to e-service activities is highly promoted, but still there is a limitation in terms of the infrastructure, like the software infrastructure as well as the hardware infrastructure. There will be some of limitations, but customs already started online, and also Ethiopian Investment Commission now starting giving online investment service issues. So this is one of the issues the government highly doing for the future.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you very much. We do have quite a few other questions in tourism space in terms of Ethiopian diaspora, what incentives they have in terms of to support the transformation of the Ethiopian economy. But we'll leave them for now. Maybe we'll come back to them in the second webinar that we have. And before we move on, I'll just ask maybe Michael one question. Michael, if you can maybe share with us some cultural aspects of living and working in Ethiopia that might be of interest and benefit to the stakeholders here?
Well, firstly, a massive plug for tourism. For people who haven't been to the country, it really is incredible. Living and working there, it's Addis. So I don't live there, I should say. Addis 10 years ago compared to now is really, I think, and others on the call might differ. It's a place that's truly buzzing and becoming a really a modern city. There's construction everywhere. There's a metro. There are other. It's a metropolis. So living there in the city is similar to other city living in other parts of the world. I think if you're out in some of the more rural areas, there are the people, I think you'll go into the poorest community and the poorest village, and they'll still invite you in to a coffee ceremony and popcorn, which I think is really so indicative of what wonderful people Ethiopians are. They're so welcoming, and there are just some of the luxuries that you would have in Addis, you're not going to have in those smaller towns.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does touch on the cultural aspect there. So thank you very much, Michael. I think, Duncan, due to time, we will pass on. And I'm so glad that we do have more webinars coming up where we can ask more questions and get some more feedback. It's certainly what's going on. Yeah.
We actually do have a follow-up webinar on the 2nd of December, which will very much be focused on import, export in a natural way. But right now, I'm very much delighted. I understand that Ambassador Dewani is available to give us a very short vote of thanks. But before that, beyond that, rather, I certainly want to thank all speakers for their excellent presentation. But Ambassador, over to you.
Oh, everybody, greeting, please. First of all, I'm Ambassador Dewani. I'm working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as Permanent Secretary for Economic Affairs. It means related to investment, foreign trade, tourism, technology transfer. So first of all, I would like to appreciate and thanks to Australia, Africa Chamber of Commerce, and also Mr. Marison from Acting Assistant Secretary also for Africa. And also thank you, Mr. Mikhail, Chief Executive Officer of Megado Code Limited. Everybody on this webinar, my I think the relation between Australian companies and Ethiopia is deep-rooted, long history we have. So now to the point, having the challenge of COVID, how shall we strengthen the flow of investment, mainly investment, between companies from Australia and others, especially to Ethiopia, and also the vice versa. In fact, we can see that way also, and the trading also. We can see all of those opportunities. And I think during the last, I think particularly few years, in fact, although we have a long history of relation with Australia, but it's not to the level of that expectation that the relation we have with regard to investment. We want more Australians to come to Africa, especially to Ethiopia. I hope you have got full information about the investment opportunities in Ethiopia, but we have to enhance, despite the fact that we have long history, but still we have to work hard to strengthen our really relationship in the areas of economy, in investment. So currently we are open. Currently we are open despite the fact that the challenge we have with COVID, but still now Ethiopia, nowadays we are open. We all know the challenge we have nowadays with regard to COVID-19, but the hope is that this time will pass, the relation will continue, the flow will continue, more Australians will come to Ethiopia and we will receive you. And in fact, nowadays, I think around 15, 20 days ago, already we are open. And if someone has certificate, he's free to enter to Ethiopia. But still, we will clarify, we will support, especially those whom are interested to come to Ethiopia for investment or for trade. We will provide you a kind of special treatment, and let us have you through our embassy from Canberra. My colleagues, Barihun, and his colleagues, his team also there, will support you, will help you, will guide you, will inform you, and then they will channel you with us, and then we will facilitate it in a kind of a special way with full information, with full support, so that you will not face a kind of complicated problem while you are arriving in Ethiopia. But before you arrive, such kind of forum is extremely very important to exchange information, to update you, what are the opportunities in Ethiopia, how you can proceed. And one thing I would like to capitalize is that Australia, you have the best experience, especially in mining. Yesterday, we were at ministerial meeting for, we are enacting new policy in the area of mining, by the way. A lot of opportunities coming up, by the way, I assure you. Yet this area is, I can say, is untapped area where money can come in the areas of mining. Money can come, money can invest, as you have very good experience, especially Chamber of Commerce of Australia. You can mobilize that, you can support that, and we will provide you more detailed information. Even we can explain to you, or we can arrange a kind of forum in the areas of this new policy we are enacting in mining area, which I hope is a very helpful. So information is important. So before you proceed and before you come, we will provide you full information. The Investment Commission already provide you with the new laws we have, regulations, so on, and the incentives we have, what kind of competitive advantage you have while you are coming to Ethiopia, particularly labor issue, the different incentives we have is extremely attractive. And now we are making, you know, more easing things and make things convenient for investors. So you, Australia, you are so special to us. I know our embassy is there supporting you, helping you. I know also appreciate, you know, the Australia-Africa Chamber of Commerce working with our mission over there. Please continue doing that. Our full support will be with you. Our Investment Commission is on board. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is coordinating those programs. And let us know, those of you whom are interested to visit in the future Ethiopia, so that we will arrange. Second, even if you don't proceed, while you are there, we will provide you with all information you need by organizing such kind of webinar, which I believe one of the benefits of COVID is to have this kind of arrangement, and we can discuss detail of it, provide you information, everything, the procedure, the rules. And then once you are clear, once you are sure, once you develop a kind of confidence to come to Ethiopia, and then we will receive you in a special way. Let us know you're coming, so that we'll provide you, we'll support you. Let's work together. Our mission there will provide you with every support. And here also, let's continue working together. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ambassador Dewani. Thank you very much for those closing remarks. And we very much look forward to our follow-up webinar, as I said, on the 2nd of December. Very much will be commercially focused, and of course, taking advantage of those very many frameworks that have been described throughout our webinar today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again very shortly. Those of you who are not members of the AACC, I would urge you to look in on our website and perhaps take advantage of becoming members, because there's a lot we can offer you. But again, thank you one and all. Please make out the survey. We look forward to seeing you again at our next webinar. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening or a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Boban, can you launch the polls?
Yes, I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.